Hi friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be hopping into my reading journal and we're going to look at my Q3 stats. So I'm going to look at the stats for July, August, and September. This is something that I intend to do quarterly, although I missed a Q2 because I could see halfway through Q2 that I wasn't meeting my goals and that they needed to be reset. So in terms of keeping track of my stats, I think, in sort of the stats gathering phase of things. This year I'm tracking a lot more than I have before, and it's something that I feel like I need the stats to action further goals, like more concrete goals. How I have this set up here is I have the categories of things that I'm tracking. I have the months that are in Q3, and then I have the number, like the total and the percentage of my reading. So in July, I read 3 books from my TBR, 2 rereads, 0 new books, and 0 books were borrowed from the library. In August, I read 1 book from my TBR, 2 rereads, 2 new books, and I borrowed 1 from the library. In September, I read 1 book from my TBR, 0 were rereads, 2 were new. This included an arc, and 1 was borrowed. So I read 5 from my TBR, 4 rereads, 4 new books, and 2 borrowed books. In terms of author identity, in July I read 3 women, 2 men, 0 non-binary authors, 1 BIPOC author, 0 queer authors, and 0 translated works. Not doing so well. In August, I read 5 women, 1 man, 0 non-binary, 0 BIPOC, 1 queer, and 0 translated. In September, I read 3 women, 1 man, 0 non-binary authors, 0 BIPOC authors, 1 queer author, and 0 works in translation, for a total of 11 women, 4 men, 0 non-binary, 1 BIPOC, 2 queer, and 0 in translation. So in terms of diversifying my reading, this is something that I have to address in my reading plans for the future. Once I allow myself to buy more books, to be cognizant of what I am bringing in. Like, if I truly want to read diversely, my buying moving forward needs to reflect that. My borrowing moving forward needs to reflect that. And I feel like I've been pretty good about borrowing either things from my TBR to listen to the audiobooks and try and move through things a little bit quicker, and also borrowing, like if I'm not interested in anything on my shelves right now, borrowing books by authors of color, borrowing books by queer authors, so that I am achieving my goals, or I'm working towards the goals of reading diversely, even when my physical TBR sort of limits me. So something that I would like to do next year, what are the stats specifically of what I'm borrowing? What are the stats of my new buys? That will be interesting. So in terms of what I am reading, in July, I read 1 physical book, 4 audiobooks, and 0 ebooks. In August, I read 3 physical books, 3 audiobooks, and 0 ebooks. And in September, I read 2 physical books, 1 audiobook, and 1 ebook, and that was The Arc. For 6 physical books, 8 audiobooks, and 1 ebook. And then in terms of where the authors are from, again, this is reflected in how white and English as a first language my reading is. In July, all 5 of the reads were from the US. In August, I read 1 book from Australia, 2 UK authors, and 3 USA authors. In September, I have 1 author from the UK and 3 from the US. So 1 Australian, 3 UK authors, and 11 American authors. I'm not even doing good at representing my own country here. Like, there's nothing Canadian in this, which is disappointing. Okay, so total books, total pages, because with the totals we can then go do percentage. The book total for July was 5 books, the book total for August was 6 books, and the book total for September was 4 books, which means that I read 15 books this quarter. A little low for me, but also I think I've been busier than I have in a long time. In terms of page count, we are looking at 1,924 pages in July, 2,060 pages in August, and 12,069 pages in September. I didn't do any DNFs this month, which is lovely. Let me do some quick math here. So my total pages is 5,253 pages. So for percentages, it's divided pretty equally. The numbers don't differ greatly. I read about the same from my TBR, my rereads, and new books. And then borrowing is actually down, which I feel like has been unusual this year. I've been borrowing quite a bit. In terms of identity, we have 73% women, 27% men, 0% other. So we have 7% BIPOC, which is lower than I want it to be, 13% queer, and 0% translated. So we're looking at 40% physical, 53% audio, and it should be about 6%, right? Things that I would like to improve on. I feel like I have had a goal of reading more not men, and I seem to be achieving that quite well with people who identify as women. I am not finding authors who identify outside of men and women, so that is something that I would look to do better. In terms of diversity, I'm basically not achieving goals in terms of reading books by BIPOC and queer authors, and translated is something new that I'm tracking this year, and I don't read a lot of works in translation, or I haven't been reading a lot of works in translation. I am a little bit surprised that my physical books are so low, but I guess it also makes sense that like the busiest part of this year, July, August, September, there was a lot of like outdoor activities, a lot of like gardening, walking while listening to audiobooks. So I guess it makes sense that I was listening to more audiobooks than physically reading, because I was doing a lot of multitasking this summer. In terms of where the author lives, I guess it doesn't surprise me, because I'm not reading anything in translation, that everything that I'm reading is like from a place that is English first, has English as a first language. So it's not surprising that Australia, UK, USA is where the majority of my reading comes from. It does surprise me that in all of these days that I did not pick up a single Canadian author. I claim to have an interest in CanLit, and then here we go, you know, reading 73% of things from the US. Where's the last quarter? The last quarter that I did was here. This was part of the goals reset. I think I'm reading less overall. Yes, I am. The stats are much closer to where I had set my goals. So I really did fall off of my goals in the summer, in the busiest parts of the summer, which is maybe something to keep in mind as I'm goal setting in 2023. If I know that the back half of my year is always going to be busy, maybe I need to set more realistic goals, right? Because you know, January, February, March, at least in Canada, that like the weather's shitty. There is definitely more time to like curl up and read physical books because people aren't inviting you to barbecues. No one wants to be outside. Now that I'm looking at these stats, I always felt like I didn't get a lot done in the second half of the year and felt like a bit of a failure, but it's just like, it's a consistent pattern that I get more done in the first half of the year when it's cold and gross than in the second half of the year when it's beautiful. And then you run into October's always busy. It's always jam-packed. My birthday's there, my partner's birthday's there, Halloween, Canadian Thanksgiving, like outdoor sports things start to wrap up. So you're looking at tournaments and folks are like trying to squeeze in the last of the nice weather. November is busy because people start to think about Christmas. And then December is just fucked because everybody is competing for holiday parties, holiday time. I always knew that like the last 3 months of my year were busy, but like it's nice to see the stats. And I mean, I think I'm just gonna be gentle with myself, just be kind with myself as we go through the last quarter of the year, knowing that things are going to be busy and that's okay. So that brings us to the end of this reading journal check-in. Thank you to my patrons who make videos like this possible. I really appreciate the work that they enable me to do. So the patron exclusive live stream for November, our November book is The Running Man by Stephen King. It is our like wrap up for the Red Room Book Club for 2022. And the live stream for patrons is happening on Saturday, December 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also trying to book in closer to December, a patron live stream where we're gonna have watched Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a zombie Christmas musical, and then we'll chat a little bit about Anna and the Apocalypse, and we'll just have like a patron hangout in December instead of reading another book together, because I know that it's busy for everybody. So just chatting, hanging out, offering feedback about what we should do with some of the book clubs moving forward into 2023. So wanted to highlight that for patrons. If you're interested in becoming a patron, the link's in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you are doing well, that you are staying safe, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye.